Hi everyone, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yoga. And for today's practice, we're going to be doing a yin yoga practice. We're going to be stretching a lot of our hips and spine. I was also thinking about doing a little bit of upper body, some neck and shoulder stretches. These are common areas that people hold their tension, their tightness, and stress in. I felt like it would be appropriate to stretch the neck, shoulder, and then help us work into our hips and spine. So we're going to get a lot done with our practice today. With this, as always, let experience be your guide. If your body is telling you that it's too much of a stretch, please listen to it. I would rather you under stretch than overstretch any day of the week. So please just be mindful of what your body is going through and what your experience is. So we'll start our practice off in a comfortable position. You can sit, you can lay on your mat, wherever you're comfortable, go there. Close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, just more to feel and pay attention to. Now I want you to pay attention to your breath and breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm, turning your senses and your awareness within. With this belly breathing technique, if you ever want to double check if you're doing it correctly, place a hand on your stomach below your belly button. You'll feel the stomach expand when you take an inhale. It will contract when you take an exhale. And this is belly breathing. It's the breathing technique I recommend for our practice. The majority of practices I teach, I recommend this breathing technique. But especially for now, it's going to help slow you down, center you into your body, into your mind, and into what you're doing for the next hour. And like I mentioned before, we are doing a yin yoga practice. Yin yoga is a very gentle and passive style of yoga where you're holding slow, static postures for an extended period of time to stretch the body. Not just about stretching the muscles, though we will stretch muscle, but what we're targeting is called connective tissue. It's our deeper tissue. It's what holds the muscles, the bones, and the organs in place and in line. Basically, it's the glue that keeps our body upright, so it's a really important thing to work. A lot of us are just unfamiliar with it. Again, how we do it is by holding poses for a while. We're talking roughly 4 to 5 minutes with each individual pose. This could be a long time, and I understand that. So if your better judgment were to lead you out of something early, then that's fine. If 2 or 3 minutes in a pose you feel like you've had enough, you want to make your way out, that's okay, right? Listening to your body is important. But if you feel comfortable and you want to hold the pose the entire time, or maybe even a little bit longer, it's up to you. Just let experience be your guide. Let your body tell you what you need to do. But during the hour, if you need some help, always feel free to type in your comments and questions on Facebook, because we're doing this Facebook Live. My better half, my producer as well, Sarah, my significant other, is on standby. So again, with these questions, if you have them, she'll yell them out to me, and then I can answer you them via Facebook Live. Again, settle in. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. We're going to start our practice off loosening up the hips and spine. Laying on your back and cradling the legs, bring the knees up to the chest. Cradle your legs, rock up and down, side to side, make circles. You're just using your intuition here to help wake up your hips and wake up your spine. The lumbar spine, that's the lower back, it is something we will work in this practice. Work our hips as well. But like I mentioned, we're also going to be doing a little bit of upper body, some neck and shoulder stretches. When you're ready, go ahead and make your way for a comfortable seated position. We're going to start this off, again, with our neck and with our shoulder. And we're going to do a few stretches to warm up with the neck. And the first one that I want you to do is take an ear, doesn't matter which one. Lift the ear up to the ceiling. You'll feel some lengthening in the side of the neck when you lift it. We're elevating. It's a slightly different emphasis as opposed to trying to get the ear to the shoulder. I'd rather you elevate. It could be a deeper stretch for you. And when you're ready, come back to center. And then the other side. Elevating, lifting the ear up to the ceiling, feeling the side of the neck stretch. And with these neck and shoulder stretches, we'll hold them for a little bit less of time. Typically with a smaller joint, it's not really required to hold it for 3-4 minutes. But about 20 seconds to a minute could be always appropriate. Come back to center when you're ready. Shake it off. We're going to stretch the front of the neck as well. Lift your chin up to the ceiling, trying to not crank back in your neck, but lift up with your chin. Feel the neck, maybe even into the jaw a little bit. When you're ready, release. You're going to bend the neck forward. Chin to chest if you can get there, but if not, it's fine. Don't force yourself to get there. But it's the back of the neck that I want you to feel. When you're ready, lift it up, shake it off a little bit. We're going to do a few more neck stretches. Go ahead and turn your head to the right, just to the point where you start meeting resistance. Don't go past this, just enough here. When you're ready, back to center. And then the other side. If you're on the same page as me, it's left. Again, to the point where you start meeting resistance. Do not force past that. And when you're ready, release, and then come back to the center. We're going to do one more neck stretch for us. Imagine in front of you is 0 degrees, 90 and 90 on your shoulders. Let's go ahead and bend the neck forward. You're going to take your right hand, put it on the back of your head, pull it down to the right to about 30 to 60 degrees, and you'll feel the back left side of your neck stretching. But don't yank so hard, right? We just want to feel a mild stretch going on here. When you're ready, release. And then we'll do the other side. You have the left hand pulling down on your head, going to the left to about 30 to 60 degrees to feel the back right side of your neck. When you're ready, release. Lift it up, move it around a little bit. We're going to do one more thing for the neck, and it's just taking it to full range of motion. So a nice circle here. Go a few times one way and a few the other. Do your best to balance. When you feel your balance, go ahead and rest your neck at the center. And there's our direct neck stretches. We'll probably do a few more as we go on in the practice, sort of just as bonuses. But for now, let's go ahead and start working into the shoulders. Hands to shoulder blades, you're going to rotate. Just want to loosen up the joints. We're going to be doing some deeper stretches here in a moment. But you go a few times one way, and you go a few the other. Right? Doing your best to balance. Oops, sorry, buddy. Always be mindful of your furry friends. When you feel your balance, though, go ahead and shake it off. we're going to do what's called the eagle arm pose. And the eagle arm pose is a stretch for your shoulders, more for the back. And let's try to do this on the same page because it's just easier for me to explain. We're going to stretch the back left shoulder. So you're going to have your left arm on top of your right, elbows stacked. Grab your hands if you can. And if not, it's fine. You could just straighten your left arm. But I want you to pull your left arm to the right side of your body, right? You're pulling your left arm away. So crossing it over to the right. And you feel the back left shoulder modifying in the stretch. And feel free to stretch it as much as you want. If you feel like it's not enough, keep pulling. But if it's too much, you could always come back to the center. Something else you could do is even lift up or lower down. We call it the sleeping eagle when you start bending forward. Just wherever you feel the stretch best, right? Go ahead and go there. For me today, it's more in the middle here as opposed to bending forward or lifting up. But get comfortable as best as you can. When you're ready, your time. Real slow, let that arm out. Move it around a little bit, maybe even shake it off. But we have to do the other side. And if you're on the same page as me, it's now right arm on top of your left, elbows stacked. Grab your hands if you can. Maybe you can on this side, maybe not. If not though, straighten your right arm and you're gonna pull your right arm to the left side of the body. So you're gonna feel the back right side of the shoulder. And really, we're talking about the traps, the posterior deltoid, the rhomboid muscles, right? All those major muscles in the shoulders. They do a lot of work for you. And one of the reasons why your shoulders, most people's shoulders, will develop some tension and tightness is because they're mostly suspended in the air through muscles and connective tissues. The only part of your arms and your shoulders that are connected to your spine is via your collarbone. Right? This is the only area where you actually have support when it comes to the spine and the arms. So again, the rest of this is just held up by muscles and connective tissue, hence why it gets tight. And when you're ready, real slow, let it out, move it around a little bit, shake it off. An interesting thing about cats, they have floating clavicles, which means they're not actually connected to their collarbones. That's why they can flatten out, they can get into crazy surfaces like that. That's why this little buddy is, he can be an escape artist. We're going to do another stretch for the shoulders. It's called the broken wing pose. Broken wing, the target area is to feel the rotator cuff, the supraspinatus tendon, if we want to be anatomically correct about it. But it'll be right over the top of your shoulder. And we're going to do this one side at a time. A little bit. You want to join me here? We're going to lay on our backs with this. So what you're going to do, you're going to have one hand behind your back. Your palm will face the floor. So you're going to lay on your back here. And this arm is going to be the one that gets the stretch right over the top of the shoulder. Now, to modify this, a couple of things you can do. You can always have your feet on the floor with the knee bent. You can slide your legs out if you'd like to. Either way is fine. To increase the shoulder stretch too, slide your hand up the back. But to decrease the stretch, lower down the back. You may also want to consider taking it to the left side or to the right side. Just find out where you're most comfortable. I don't want you to overstretch though, right? Nice broad stretch over the top of the shoulder is all we're looking for here. When you're ready, there is the time. Very slowly roll away from that arm. Let it out. Shake it off. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it. And then we'll do the other side. I'll flip over here again so you can see the profile a little bit better. So again, intention is over the top of the shoulder. Broad stretch here. You'll have your hand behind your back. Your palm faces the floor. But two sides are different. So if you get here and notice that, it's not abnormal. Maybe on this side you can't really lift the hand up that high. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it has to be very high up. So with it, again, laying down. You got the hand under your back. Palm facing the floor. You can slide your legs out, lay flat, or you can always keep your knees bent, feel on the floor. It's up to you, right, wherever you're most comfortable. Increase it by sliding the hand up the back, decrease by lowering down the back, or even go to the sides. Go to the right side, go to the left side. Just find out where you're most comfortable. But please don't overdo it. When you're ready, we'll say that's the time. Slowly roll away from that arm. Let it out. Move it around a little bit. Shake it off. We're going to continue to lay down with our next yin posture. Here's where we start to work into our hips and into our spine. We'll throw in one more shoulder stretch. It's going to be, again, a bonus for us. But we're going to do a twist pose. Reclining twist. You're going to lay on your back. Bring your knees up to the chest. Let's do this on the same page. Twist your legs to the right and lay them down on the floor here. So the intention of this one is to feel the lower left side of your back, outside of your left leg. You might feel your glutes as well. Broad stretches. But if you're getting here and you're noticing you can't get the knees together, can't get the legs to the floor, you could always use a block. Or if you have a pillow or something like that, or a blanket, that might work too. Put it under the bottom leg or in between the knees. Again, whatever works best for you. You might not need a block, but it is nice to have them handy. If you're comfortable into this, you're feeling the stretch, you're able to relax, the modification that I'd recommend to stretch your shoulder is taking your arms out to the T. Opens up the chest and shoulder. If your legs are going to the right, like I am, then you're feeling inside to the left, chest and shoulder. Something else you can do, palms up versus palms down. That could drastically change the stretch. You might already be in the increased fashion to it, but maybe not. Maybe you're not, and you have to flip that arm over, up or down. But just so we know, it does change the experience of the posture. And it really all it comes down to is some internal and external rotation of your humerus, your big arm bone. If you want to stretch your neck, maybe one more time, go ahead and look away from your legs. So legs going right, that means look left. But if you want to stretch more of your chest and shoulder, I would suggest looking with your legs. So if your legs are going right, look right, and see what that does for that left shoulder. Up to you. You can do all these if you'd like to. There's no rule that says you have to just pick one of these modifications. You can do a combination of all of these things. But the last thing for us to do is going to be playing around with the position of the top leg. Keeping your knees stacked is probably enough, but if you feel like you could use more, take the top leg over the bottom leg. Lay the top leg's foot onto the floor, wherever it's most comfortable. Now, if you do this and you say, I'm no longer relaxing, I'm feeling more of a localized strain in the back of my hip, or it's just really uncomfortable, keep the knees stacked, right? I would rather you understretch than overstretch any day of the week. Please, please, please keep that in mind. Under is better than over. Thank you. Let's go ahead and settle in here for another minute. When you're ready, slowly unwind from your twist. You can lay on your back if you'd like to. Some people actually would prefer to lay on their side. You can bring your knees up to the chest. You can lay flat. Again, it's up to you. We're going to have a minute off here to relax. So whatever your body's calling for right now, go ahead and please do that. When you're ready, go ahead and make your way for the other side. If you're on the same page as me, very good, good twist. You're going left here now. So you're going to lay on your back, bring your knees up to the chest, take your legs over to the left, lay them on the floor, right? This is the pose. The intention is to feel the lower right side of your back, outside of your right leg, maybe your glutes as well. Broad stretches. Anything localized around the back of the hip is you going too far, so please keep that in mind. Also, another sign you're going too far, if your body refuses to relax, like your core muscles, your back muscles, they start flexing, you need to decrease it. And that might be when the block comes into play. You put the block in between your knees, you put it under your bottom leg. You could do both if you have two of them, or if you have a pillow, right, that's fine. Please don't do that one. Up to you. But we do want to stretch both sides, right, as best as we can. And with that in mind, two sides being different, the alignment is probably not going to be the same. So if you have arms out to the T, you got the chest and shoulder opener stretch, thank you. You might feel a little bit differently. Maybe on this side you need the palms up versus palms down. Again, that's 100% up to you, but just experience it for whatever it is, please. Thank you. Why you bite me? Why you bite me? Chest and shoulder of the right side getting this one. If your legs are going left, it's inside of the right chest and shoulder now. If you want to stretch your neck, look away from your legs. Maybe with this one, if your legs are going left, you want to look to your right. Stretch your cervical spine. Or if you want to stretch more of your chest and shoulder, look with your legs. So legs going left, look left. That's going to open up that right shoulder just a little bit more. Again, feel free to do all of these or a combination. You know, it's totally fine to do one or both. The last thing to adjust will be your legs. Keeping your knees stacked usually is enough. But if you need more, take your top leg over the bottom leg. Lay that top leg's foot onto the floor. Just really wants to be in the shot. But with this, again, taking the top leg over, rotate your pelvis deeper into it, increases the side body stretch. Now, if you do this and you say, nah, I'm feeling too much now, it's that burning, localized pain in the back of my hips, I can't relax, keep the knees stacked, right? We would rather underdo it than overdo it. That's why I like to shout out the scale of stretching. You know, again, between 1 and 10, if 10 is your deepest stretch, go for 6 and 7. You're less likely to overstretch there. You're more likely to relax. Find a nice moderate stretch where it's not too much, not too little, but it's just right. Lay down. Go ahead and relax for the next minute if you can. When you're ready, here's your time. Slowly unwind from your twist. You can lay on your back if you'd like to. You can lay on your side, bring your knees up to the chest, lay flat, do whatever you need. Just take a minute for yourself to relax. I swear they're good friends. You're not supposed to move if you have a cat on you. I don't know if you know that rule, buddy, but I think I have to. Come on, boy. You can't hide there. Okay. We're going to do a stretch now for our backs and potentially for the hips. It's going to be really up to you, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Because I'm going to throw out a hip opener and a spine opener. These animals are being handled. The first option I'm going to suggest for you, though, is butterfly pose, where you have the soles of the feet together in front of you. You fall in round in the pose the best you can. This is to stretch your inner thighs and stretch your back, so it should be nice and broad stretches. But if you're doing this pose and you're saying it actually feels like it's more my knees that are getting stretched, or it's more my hips, it's more in the back of my hips, you're overstretching something. I'd usually recommend, if you want to do a forward bend, to do a dragonfly pose, where you spread out your legs, you lean forward here, you get the inner thighs, you get your back, you get a bonus hamstring stretch. It's going to be up to you. Now, if you want to stretch more of your hips, you could always do more of a hip opener, a variation of butterfly pose called reclining butterfly, where you have the soles of the feet together, but you just lay on your back and let gravity do all the work for you. You can see how this is more for the hips because it keeps your pelvis and your sacrum level with the floor. Again, up to you. If you want to do more of a hip opener, I would actually suggest laying down. But if you want to stretch your back, I'm going to suggest rounding forward. So whichever of these you want to do, that's up to you. I don't know if you joined me for practice yesterday. We did a lot of legs, and I'll be honest with you, my hamstrings are very tight right now. So I'm strategically picking the dragonfly pose to not only stretch my inner thighs, but to get my hamstrings involved. I'm probably going to do an extra hamstring stretch for myself. Now we're going to do a direct one too with the caterpillar pose. That's going to be the next pose. But really, it's up to you. You know, you can always stretch the hamstrings 2 times, or you can always stretch whatever area that's really tight for you 2 times. But again, letting experience be your guide. And do your best to let your muscles soften. We want to let the muscles relax here to the point where we might actually fall asleep in this. And if you do fall asleep, just so you know, you are doing this correctly. Right? When we do this kind of practice, when we breathe low in our diaphragm, our parasympathetic nervous system will kick in. And that's the part of the nervous system that cools you down, calms you down, makes you relax, can also make you a little sleepy. So that's why some people will fall asleep in this practice. So, don't be embarrassed if that's you. A lot of times, it might just be what you need. There was one particular case where I was teaching years ago, and I had this one woman fall asleep within the first 5 minutes of the class. And it was my moral and ethical dilemma of, should I wake up the sleeper? And when she came in, she looked very tired. I mean, I could just tell just by looking at her that she was exhausted. I just let her go for the hour. And I woke her up once Shavasana happened, once we got into the corpse pose and we got done with it. She felt really embarrassed, but I told her again, hey, you looked like you needed a nap for the hour, so I just let you go. I don't think it's a bad thing to take naps. By the way, I think it can be a very healthy thing for you. We're over halfway through this pose, just to give you an idea of time. Again, just go ahead and relax. We'll save for the next minute. These poses today, we're doing really for about 3.5 minutes. Well, you're doing it. Get the shot. No? Too shy now. Come on, buddy. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths. When you're ready, there is the time, really slowly, using your hands, pushing yourself out, lay down on your back, but take your time getting there. It might feel like a long way away. Just observe the effects. Feel the rebound effect. And by that, I mean, what does your body feel like after holding that pose for a while? What changes? What physical sensations are you experiencing? Maybe even energetic experiences. You can feel this kind of energy just flowing through you. Thank you, Wendy. Lay down, good girl. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, go ahead and make your way back up to a comfortable seated position. We're going to stretch the hamstrings next with the caterpillar pose. We'll just do both at the same time, help save some time for us. So you'll have both legs extended out in front of you. You're going to fall in round in the pose as best you can. Grab onto something comfortable. That could be anything. That could just be the knees, it could be your shins, around the ankles, around the feet, around the toes. It's not toe-touching competition, right? So don't force yourself to get there. If you're finding out you're really struggling, you may want to use a prop. I usually use a hand towel where you throw it over your feet and you use it for leverage to pull you forward. But try not to pull back, right? If we start pulling back, we lose the benefit of the forward bend. That's half the reason why you're doing the pose. However, I would say, if you're doing this forward bend and you feel burning lower back pain, we're talking in the SI joints, the back of the hips, you may actually want to consider laying down on your backs with this. And that's where the prop can really come into play. You lay down, use that prop, throw it over your feet, and pull back. So not only can you just get a pure hamstring stretch here, but it's just going to be less invasive for your back. So again, if you're saying to yourself, yeah, it really hurts my back and not a therapeutic way to bend forward, just lay back. It's totally fine to do it that way. There's no right or wrong onto it. But if you're doing the forward bending version, and maybe you want to get a little bit more out of the forward bend, if you're really struggling to round in, you could always let your knees bend. You don't have to lock the legs down. You let the knees bend, it allows more forward bend for your back. You still feel plenty of the back of the legs, and the back if you're really tight there. But up to you. If you're pretty bendy, you may want to just have those knees down on the floor. And what we want to feel here is broad stretches, where you can open palm, wave your hand to it, say, yeah, I feel this. And that's called tension, that broad stretching pain. That is the therapeutic pain that we can change. Over the course of time, the more we do this practice, the more we exercise, the more we start working through tension. It just takes some time to get there, right? To start working through all that tightness you have. And I like to remind my students, consider how long you've been living your life and you haven't been doing a yoga practice like this. It's going to take some time to open up those tight areas. So don't rush yourself, right? It could take a couple of months, a couple of years to get there. But at some point, you'll start working through it. And then eventually you reach what's called compression, where two parts of your body or bones run into each other. When you feel compression, bone on bone pain, it's very easy to feel. You'll take one finger, say it feels like it's pinching right in the joint. It could be anywhere. It could be your hips, it could be your knees, it could be your ankle, your neck, your back, your shoulders, any place where bones will run into each other, that's compression. And once that happens, you've reached the full range. That is the ultimate range. You can't physically go past it without overextending something. The other sign of compression, if two parts of the body are just running into each other, there might be no sensation at all. For example, some people will get their chests and their stomachs to come down and touch their legs. That's not bone on bone, that's just two parts of the body. Can't get past that without modifying, that is. And that also applies for those who might feel that bone on bone pain in their hips. When you're doing a forward bend, the bone on bone pain could be in the femur and the pelvis. Or again, could just be the stomach running into the legs. You modify it though. Widen your stance, you abduct your femurs away from your pelvis, and all of a sudden you can go deeper into it. So don't be afraid to modify. We're not sticklers about alignment. We're not practicing aesthetics. We're practicing yoga, right? In the functional perspective, the feeling behind it. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's time. Real slow, lift yourself up, lean back, lay down, take your time. Again, that might feel like a long way away. Just observe the changes from the pose. you're ready, go ahead and make your way for a comfortable seated position. And we're going to stretch the IT bands. I'm going to throw out 2 poses today. So maybe a new one for you that you've never tried before, and one that we've done in our past yoga practices. The one that you might not be familiar with is called the Eye of the Needle pose. And this is where you use a little bit of muscular effort. I'm going to show this from a few different angles here. I think the easiest way for me to show this is turning around, where you actually lay on your back. You'll cross one leg over. Let's say for the sake of doing it on the same page, cross your left leg over and rest that left foot on your right knee. You'll take your left hand, thread the needle, hence the name. The other arm wraps around. You'll grab the shin of the opposite leg, so that would be your right shin, and you pull it. And the more you pull, the more of the cross leg's IT band's going to get the stretch. It'll be a nice broad stretch here on the outside of the left leg. Let me show you from the other side too. And the profile view might help too. Laying on your back, cross your left leg over, rest on the right knee, hands wrap around, grab the shin, the right leg, and you pull it. And the more you pull, the more you get for the cross legs IT band stretch. So again, a little bit of muscular effort is going to be involved with this particular pose. However, today I feel like doing something else. I'm going to be doing the swan pose, pigeon. It's what we've been doing pretty often in our past yoga practices. So this is one where you have one leg out in front, you have one leg behind. It's the outside of your front leg that gets stretched. I'll show you from both angles here. So you lean forward over the front leg. You can have your front leg shin parallel with the top of the mat. You don't have to though. You can always bend your knee, bring your foot in towards your groin. Whatever protects your knee and your hip, that's what you need to be doing. And you lean forward. Start with the hands, elbows, head on the block, head on the floor if you can get there. Back leg can be adjusted too. Your back leg could be straight behind you, or you can bring your back leg around you to the side. It changes the angle of the pelvis when the back leg starts coming around versus having it straight behind you. Let me show you from the other side here so you can get that visual a little bit better. So back leg straight. You see how my front hip comes up off the floor a little bit? Not that this is bad. I'm still feeling the stretch here, but for some people, when they have this back leg straight, their front hip comes up like a foot up off the floor. It can be really uncomfortable. So what you can do to remedy that, let this leg turn out. Lay it on the floor. And that's going to require you to bring the back leg around you to the side. And all of a sudden now you're able to relax and you're feeling the outside of the leg in a swan pose. But again, it's just more of a modified version of it. It's not better. It's not worse. Everybody will have different experiences. And what your experience is valid. Right? Just because somebody feels it differently from you doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. Right? We all have different bodies, especially with our skeletons. My teacher used to say, your skeleton is just as unique as your fingerprint. Right? There's not a single person on this planet that has the exact same sets of bones and ranges of motion as you. And that's what makes our yoga practice so unique, and which is why I never stress alignment. I recognize skeletons are not going to do things the same way. Our anatomy is so unique that we have to modify our practice according to that. And teaching based off of alignment is like expecting everybody to be able to fit into one correct size shoe, right? There's only one size shoe. You have to wear this one size because that's the one way to do it. It's the right way. We're going to say the right size shoe is a size 8. How many people out here wear a size 8 shoe? Probably, there are some people, obviously, that's the average size. But still, I wear a size 11. If I'm going to wear a size 8 shoe and I'm going to go run some laps, I'll have blisters all over my feet within a minute. So that's why I tailor my shoe size according to the size of my foot. Why is our exercise any different? We should be tailoring our exercise according to the skeleton and what it can do. The same way we do it to our shoes, the same way we do it to the size of our clothes and our body. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, it's your time. Real slow, let yourself on out. Path of least resistance. I usually kind of just roll out of this one. I'll lay on my stomach or on my side, but you take whatever that path is for you. ready, you can go ahead and make your way with the other side. Whichever side that is for you. Right? If you did Eye of the Needle, I think I had you on the left side to start, so you'd be on the right side now. But I'll show you from all the different angles here again. So you're laying on your back, cross your right leg over, rest your right foot on the left knee, take your right hand through the legs, that's why they call it thread the needle. The left arm wraps around. Grab onto your left leg shin, and the more you pull, the more of the cross leg's IT band is going to get stretched. It'll be the outside of the right leg if you are on the same page in this particular pose. Right, broad stretch. And again, I'll show you from the other side too. Laying down, cross the right leg over, right hand threads the needle, right? Other wraps around, grabs the shin. Pull it, right? A little bit of muscular effort to feel the outside of your right leg. But if you're in this and you're saying, no, that's not really working for me, and maybe you want to do the swan pose, the pigeon, that's fine, right? You could always have your outside of the leg laying on the floor. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? We just established that some people's hips will come up off the floor. I'll still mention that again. But it's still, again, outside of the right leg. To modify it, lots of ways to do it. You could have your front leg shin parallel. Top of that, doesn't have to be though. You could always bend your knee, bring your foot in towards your groin. Whatever's going to protect your hip and knee, that's what you need to do. And then lean forward into it. Hands, elbows, head on the block, head on the floor if you're there. Up to you. Back leg can be adjusted as well. Could be straight behind you, or you can bring your back leg around you to the side. And you notice how my pelvis just changed there. When the back leg started coming around, my front hip turned out more. And now my hip is laying on the floor with this. But if I have my back leg straight, see how my hip comes up? Again, not better or worse, it just changes the angle of the pelvis. When the back leg's straight behind you, there's a little bit more internal rotation versus when the back leg comes around. See how this is more external? It's turning out now. It's able to lay on the floor. I still feel it though, with my hip coming up, even if it's ever so slightly. But some people, again, this hip will come up like 6 inches to a foot off the ground, which is really uncomfortable, right? You might say, I'm feeling my knees now, or it's my hips. It's really uncomfortable. Let's just let that leg turn out then, right? It's fine. Don't worry about what it looks like. Please do not worry about it. Something I love stressing is the functional perspective. Am I feeling the intention of the pose? Right? That's more important than what does it look like. Function over aesthetics. Not that you can't think about the look. I'm not saying don't ever think about the aesthetics of it. I'm saying if you're going to think about it, think critically. Think to yourself, what happens if I turn myself a little bit this way? What happens if my back leg is this way? What happens if I put my arms over here? What happens if I turn? Who knows what the experience is going to be like for you? But it's still worth investigating, right? Don't worry about the perfect alignment. Perfect alignment does not exist. I don't know why we stress it so much. Actually, I'll tell you why. One of the reasons why we're so alignment oriented is because when the British infiltrated India back whenever it happened, they saw the people of India doing their yoga practice. The military saw it, and they saw its benefit. So they took it, right? And so that's why in a typical yoga practice, you will have the teacher in front, the drill sergeant, and you'll have its students lined up in rows, all facing the instructor, telling them to do it this way, right? So it's that military mindset. That's where it came from. But we need to break that, right? If you're ready, there's time. Real slow. Roll away from it. Let it out. Lay down. Be on your back, on your stomach, on your side, whatever you need. Take a moment, though. Our next yin posture, we're going to be doing a back bend. Two poses I can offer up: Sphinx pose and supported bridge. If you're a regular by now, you probably know what these are. But a Sphinx pose, you lay on your stomach, prop up onto your forearms and elbows. This is the pose. It's a dull, gentle pressure that you should be feeling in your lower back and the lumbar spine. That is all it should be. If it's anything sharp, you're going to want to come down from it, right? Lower down. Don't push through the sharpness. But you may also want to consider doing supported bridge. You have a block, pillows work just fine. Put it under your back and lay on it, right? This is the pose. You can keep your knees bent, feet on the floor. It's fine. Or to increase it, slide your feet out. There is a deeper arc in the back when the legs slide out, as opposed to when the knees are coming up towards the chest. Still, again, intention is dull, gentle pressure in the lower back. If you're doing a supported bridge, though, you can play around with the block. Is it flat? Are you flipping it up? Is it vertical? Some people will enjoy having two blocks. I'm not one of those people. I don't have a deep back bend, so I never push up with it with two blocks. A lot of times it's just one, and I lay it flat. Again, everybody's back bend is different. But dull and gentle pressure is what we seek here. Anything sharp, again, seriously, lower down from it. Don't push through it. You could potentially hurt your back. And it might not be in this practice, but continuing to do it could set you up for an injury just in the long run. Right? So just be mindful of that. But if you're doing this pose and you're saying, I'm feeling little to nothing. I already mentioned modifications for those who are in the supported bridge, but in the Sphinx pose, you can do quite a few things. Lift your feet up off the floor, dull and gentle pressure here still in the lower back, but it's from the pelvis tilting forward, and it creates a little bit more extension in your spine. Might be okay. I'm doing this and I'm starting to feel sharp pain in my back. My quads are starting to spasm a little bit. So I'm keeping my feet down. But some people can do that all day and be fine. Or even more. You might even extend up into a seal pose. We called it upward dog yesterday if you were doing our strengthening practice. It's still a dull, gentle pain in the back, a back bend here. I'm doing this in a very modified way. My hands are past the mat. There's a reason. If I bring my hands in any closer to my hips will come up off the floor, and that represents the ultimate range of motion in this back bend. So let me show you here. Right, here's me in my modified pose. But see how my back isn't changing? It's just my hips that are coming up now? It's because I'm past my full range. Now I'm at risk of overextending my spine. So to protect my back, I'll slide my hands out. Here's my full bend. But here and here with the elbows down, it's a minimal difference. I mean, there are some days where I feel like it's necessary to do a seal pose modified. Most of the time, I'm just laying on my elbows here. But deepening your back bend, whatever you got's what you got, right? You can't achieve having a deep back bend. If you could, I would have it by now. I've been doing yoga for 10 years, and my back bend has not changed since day one. Right? This is just how it's been the entire time. It's not a sign of inflexibility. It's a sign of compression and my skeleton not allowing it. So knowing the difference between am I inflexible or is it because my skeleton's stopping me will save you from so many injuries. Right? I know it's my skeleton stopping me here because I'm feeling compression. I'm feeling my bones. But if it was flexibility, I could change that. And flexibility, by the way, if you are tight here, it's not going to be in your back. It's going to be the stomach and the chest. Try to think of this. In every yoga pose, there's an opening side to it and there's a closing side to it. The closing side right now is the back side. Opening side is the front. Maybe I'll show you that here in a moment here, give you a better visual demonstration of that. When you're ready, we'll say it's time. Go ahead and lay down on your stomach if you're in a Sphinx pose. If you're in supported bridge, lift your hips up, slide the block out, and just lay down. Take a minute to relax here. After a deep back bend, it's going to feel really nice to do a gentle forward bend. Child's pose is one of the go-tos, but if you're laying on your back, you could just bring your knees up to the chest and cradle the legs again, that's fine. wanted to mention and demonstrate the opening sides and the closing sides of a pose. I think the easiest way for us to see it is if I do a caterpillar pose. So with both legs out, just for the example of me explaining opening and closing sides. When you're bending forward in a caterpillar pose, visualize this. Front body, right here, this is closing, right? It's coming together, the angle is closing. The opening side is the back of the legs and the back, right? This whole thing is stretching. So every pose has something like that. It has the opening side, it has the closing side. We have one more pose left. We have to stretch our quads, maybe do another back bend depending on what you want to do. To save some time, I was going to suggest stretching both quads at the same time. And the quads, so we know, are the upper thighs, right? Front of the legs, really big, powerful muscles here that control a lot of knee movement. The two options I can give you for both at the same time, one is called the bow pose and the other is called the saddle pose. For those who have knee issues, I'm going to recommend the bow or maybe even a half bow pose where you're grabbing with just one leg. So with a bow, if you want to do it, you lay on your stomach, grab onto your feet, and you pull. Right? The more you pull, more you get. Muscular effort is going to be required with this particular pose. But if you're really struggling here, you could just do a half bow. Just grab one leg. I'll yell when it's halfway through this so that you can switch your side. You can still get both with it, right? So there's one option, half bow or bow. The other is called saddle pose. Again, not necessarily a pose I'd recommend for those who have knee issues, but if you don't have knee issues, you can sit on your feet. Don't have to, I'll mention that here too in a second. But really the principle of it is to start leaning back. Start with your hands, but if you need more, keep going. Elbows are going to be next. Laying on your back is going to be the full range of motion. So really deep quad stretch. You might also feel compression once more. You feel that dull, gentle pressure in your lower back because you're actually doing a back bend. Right? So there might be some of that dull pressure there. For those, again, who have knee issues, if it's flaring up, you're going to start feeling the outside or the inside of your knee. Right? This is very localized. That is you overbending. So please don't push through it. You want to feel a broad stretch over the top of the leg. So any of these are fine. Right? Just be mindful. Again, since I'm teaching, I would rather sit more upright into this. I don't want to just lay on the floor and not be able to look at you and demonstrate things. So I'll stay a little bit more up. Maybe I'll lean back to the elbows at some point. Just so you know, you could always do a half saddle, by the way. Just have one knee bent and lean back. So it's totally fine. But something that I would not worry about too much if you're doing a saddle pose, having your butt on the floor. You know, a lot of people, when the butt sits directly on the floor, when you have the feet away from your glutes, it might turn into a lot of knee pain. Actually, I'm feeling it right now. So I will always have my heels underneath my glutes. That is just the way my body needs to do it if I want to protect my knees. Right? Everybody needs to protect the knees. It's really important to do that. Common sense. Right? It's something I can't stress enough. Have common sense when you're doing any form of exercise. You're doing anything. Right? Just be smart about it. And we just hit the halfway point of this pose. If you're doing this one side at a time, switch your side. If you're doing both at the same time, just stay where you are. You're right where you need to be. Or you could switch the pose. You can go from a bow pose to a saddle pose or saddle to bow. Either way is fine. You know, again, just whatever you need to do. One more thing I wanted to mention for those who are doing a saddle pose. And a lot of times I don't necessarily explain this because your body will naturally take you to the safest place possible. But the position of your feet, right? Again, I mentioned I have my feet tucked under my glutes here. Some people will actually prefer to turn their ankles out to the sides. Again, for me, turning my ankle out to the side causes knee pain. For others, though, they can sit like this all day and be totally fine. But it's not from any range of motion of the ankle. It's actually your femur, your big leg bone. When you have the feet tucked underneath, it's turning your femur out with external rotation. But when the ankle appears to turn out, it's really the femur that's rotating internally, right? So again, depending on the shape of your femur, you're gonna prefer one or the other, and that's because of what's called torsion. Your bones, if you didn't notice, they all grow in spirals, and some people's bones spiral more internally. They spiral more externally. They're somewhere in the middle. But everyone has that feature, right? It's just a part of the body. And everything grows in that particular way. Everything grows in spirals. That's the golden ratio, if you're familiar with that mathematical equation. Our bodies grow that like that too. So we're no different from nature, right? Where else do we think we come from? We've come from it. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's time. Slowly, path of least resistance out. If that's a bow pose, let it go. If you're in a saddle pose, you can come up to a child's pose, or let your legs out and just lay down, whatever's comfortable for you. I usually prefer to head to a child's pose, though. Take a moment to relax. What you barking at, Wendy? You have a bad dream? She dreams a lot. We all have dreams, right? Before we get into our Shavasana, our corpse pose, I just wanted to shout out a few things. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a special yoga class, kids yoga, from 11 to 11:30. Parents, feel free to join in. I make it work always, but it is going to be a little bit more specialized and geared towards kids. We'll say between the ages of 5 and 10. So if you're willing to join me for that one too, I'm looking forward to having you. And then on Thursday, we're going to be doing another yin yoga practice. I'm thinking about doing more of a hip series for that particular one. And then on Friday, we'll be doing Taoist yoga. But check out the schedule. I've posted it on the Lawrenceburg Facebook page, the library's Facebook page. So if you're interested to continue joining us for this practice, we're going to be doing this throughout the week. As long as we're stuck here in quarantine in our house, I plan on releasing these classes every single day. And one of the reasons why I am doing this, it brings some sense of normalcy to me, and this crazy situation that we're in right now, I think everybody needs something like this just to keep them going, and it feels like this is my job right now, and it is. It's one of my jobs, so I'll be teaching as long as we're here. But let's go ahead and end our practice in Shavasana. In a corpse pose, you can lay on your back if you'd like to. You can lay on your side, lay on your stomach. You can sit upright in meditation. Just wherever you're most comfortable, go there. Close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, more to feel, pay attention to. Focus on your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses, your awareness within. And for these next few minutes, observe your body. Give your body a compare and contrast. How different do you feel right now as opposed to when you first started your practice? No formal ending to our practice. Stay in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. That's officially all that I have for you. I want to thank you all for joining me in the practice. It has been my pleasure. Namaste.